So, with the birth of my second one, this little one, we had a false alarm at first on Christmas Eve, which we were way late by then. We were probably 5 or 6 days late, past due then. We had our false alarm where I had a sudden onset of contractions, and they were every 5 to 7 minutes, and we thought oh no, I'm gonna have a baby right now. But then got to the hospital, and the contractions just died down and didn't have a baby. They monitored me for a couple hours. Nothing really picked up. If anything, they died down, and they said, oh, you could go home. So we had a lovely day. We had a lovely Christmas with Big Sister, which was awesome because she was 3 years old, so really understood Christmas. It's the first Christmas that she really got. And she was so excited about it. I've been talking about it. So it was lovely that we got to spend that day with her. And we went to friends, we had dinner, and contractions were just kind of on and off. Nothing too intense, nothing too steady. Where are you going, bud? Then, day after Christmas, I was having contractions in the morning, a bit more steady. You want to be like this? I was having contractions a bit more steady. Oh, so sleepy. In the morning, I had written some people. I was like, y'all need to pray that these contractions start because I am ready to have a baby already. We're a week late now. And I texted them, and then I got up out of bed. It went, bathroom, and then went to the kitchen to make my breakfast. And bam, water starts trickling out. Water running down my legs. Not like a gush, but something very noticeable, and it just kind of keeps trickling. Why don't you come up here, bud? Why don't you come up here, bud? And it just keeps trickling, So maybe about a half an hour passed, and then called the hospital. They said, yeah, come in. So we headed in. But my contractions almost stopped after my water broke, which with my first birth, if you look at or read, listen to that story, then you'll see that my contractions basically stopped when the water broke, and same thing happened with him, which I totally didn't expect. Yeah, I got to the hospital, and it's nothing, but they confirmed that it was my water that broke, amniotic fluid, and then they told me that I was definitely staying there because water broke. They don't want to run the risk of infection. So they didn't check me to see if I was dilated. So I don't know if I was when I got there because, they didn't check because my water had broke. Now with my daughter, I had been dilated. I didn't say this in her when I talked about hers, but I've been dilated for 3 centimeters for almost a month before I had her. And then with him, there wasn't any dilation. I mean, it was a week too, and barely a centimeter, if they would give me that. It was like they were being kind when they had checked me at my checkup appointments. So anyway, we're there all day, just chilling and just walking, trying to get active labor to start. My parents come out, they visit us, walk around with them, walk around with my daughter, walking all around the hospital. Lots of walking. So much so I got blisters on my feet from my shoes, so they ended up giving me socks with little rubber pads on the bottom, the no-slip socks, and I'd walk in that. I got my mom to bring out the red raspberry leaf tea, and I drank a bunch of that later in the afternoon. Contractions started to pick up, which was really helpful, and again, I was walking so much. I'm gonna go sleep. You go sleep while I talk. And, contractions started to pick up in the evening, dinner time hours. They started to get a bit more consistent, started to get a bit more intense. Let's say 8 p.m. my midwife comes in. She's letting me know there's not going to be a midwife on duty that night. It's just going to be doctors, and they're probably going to pressure me to get induced, which I don't want to do. So I put out a prayer request to my friends, and I was like, y'all need to pray that I have this baby before midnight because I want to have all natural labor. I don't want to do Pitocin or anything like that. I've been going live periodically through the last part of my pregnancy, and even that day while I was in the hospital, and taking pictures and stuff, just letting people know how I was doing and how things were progressing. So people responded to that. They're like, nobody has ever asked for their contractions to be more intense, but if that's what you want, that's what we'll pray for. So I did. I sent that message out at 8. At 8:30, midwife came and said, like, oh, things are picking up. That's good, but I don't think that you should get in the pool or anything. Maybe at 9 o'clock she told me that. Like, don't get in the pool or anything because you're not in full active labor, I don't think. But she was saying she's going to be getting off and that the doctors were going to be coming in. So 9:30, the doctors come in and they try to pressure me for Pitocin or just give their recommendations. Like, hey, it's been a long time. It's been like 12 hours since your water broke. You should seriously think about this. You should really seriously think about it. You should think about getting induced. It's like, nah, I don't want to. No thanks. So I started walking again, kept drinking my tea, and then contractions started getting serious. Like, I felt like I didn't want to walk anymore. This is at 9:45. I tell my husband he should go tell the nurse that things are getting, like a lot more serious. Now, it'd only been 15 minutes since they had been in the room. So he's like, I'll wait till 10. So we tried some different positionings and things like that, but the things that we learned from Bradley method, like squeezing hips, wasn't working because I was having front labor. It was all in my stomach. It wasn't in my back. And we didn't really remember what could be helpful for like the front labor, like where it's actually in your stomach, contractions. So should have paid attention to that. But anyway, he at 10 o'clock goes and gets the nurse. The nurse comes in. Contractions, I mean, they are intensifying, everyone. And I am all over the place, like on the bed, up off the bed, leaning over the bed. I'm just like everywhere. Contractions are definitely intensifying. She agrees with me. They're coming more frequently. They're steady. I tell her at 10:30 that I think she should check, or about 10:30. She goes and asks the doctor. Doctor says no, not until she thinks it's time to push. I have like 2 more contractions. I'm like, no, you need to check. I think it's time to push. I was shaking by then. My hands were shaking, legs were shaking. And so I finally flip over. She checks. So at 10:39 is when she documents that she checked and that it was time to push. We had a camera up and going, like recording, and the doctor and the nurse come in at 10:41 at night, and they tell us to cut off the camera. We're not allowed to record the actual birth, which we're super bummed about. But my husband goes over to stop it. So like I said, this is like 10:41, 10:42. They were just putting on their gloves. I was in the zone of like baby's coming. Contractions were really intense this time. I wasn't like closing my eyes and just gritting my teeth. I was yelling. And this one, my husband leaned over. I had him in a headlock. I was yelling and like, oh man, it felt like that baby was coming. So baby boy was born at 10:45. So it was only 2 or 3 minutes of pushing. The contractions came in waves. It was like I would get a contraction and then I'd be able to take a breath and then like another one would hit me. That actually worked out really well, I felt, because with the last push of getting him out, that contraction hit. I felt his head come through. I took a breath and then bam, that second burst of contraction hit me, and that was enough to push out his shoulders and he was out. And the only thing that I remember the doctor saying, I remember them coming in and saying like, hey, you can't record. And I was like, what the heck? And then like only 2 or 3 minutes later, then the doctor's like, whoa, glad I got my hands here. And basically, here's your baby boy. So it was really quick with baby boy, active labor, and pushing. Only 2 or 3 minutes in the pushing. Didn't tear. Was super excited about that. I felt like I was able to breathe through. And with the contractions, they kind of came in like 2 waves. It was like a double bump, or I don't know what you would call it. That was actually better. I could catch my breath in the middle. And yeah, it was just a really sweet, good experience. And like I said, natural birth's not for everybody. It's totally cool. You know, some people do a natural birth the first time, then they decide to get medicated. Some do medicated births, then they decide to go natural birth. You know, it's whatever you're feeling. But I just really thought the natural birth was great for us. Again, my son, like my daughter, was so alert. I mean, immediately alert and stayed alert for like the first, that first 24, 48 hours, just super alert, looking around, following the sounds, looking at us. It was just beautiful. I felt like I could make eye contact with him. And granted, I had to be close, but it seemed like he could actually see me. He would wake up and coo. And it was just like amazing as a newborn. And I was really happy I didn't get Pitocin after giving birth. I didn't need it. I wasn't bleeding too much. I didn't tear. Didn't have to get stitches. My bleeding stopped pretty well. The doctor was really happy with how things went. He was really shocked at the whole birth experience. One, just being natural, and two, just how quickly, once active labor hit, like baby was coming, and baby was coming now. So they were all surprised about that, but it was a really great experience. I would recommend natural birth to people. I would recommend the Bradley method. It was good for us. And yeah, that's my birth story with my second one, labor and delivery. It was good, and we have this beautiful boy now. At the time of this recording, he is 8 weeks old. Precious. Okay, peace, love, and aloha. Bye.